Super Smash Bros. Is easily one of the most successful franchises by Nintendo under its umbrella of some of gaming's most recognizable and successful IPs. Smash Bros. Has brought the likes of Mario, Zelda, Metroid, with so many other great Nintendo franchises together to duke it out. As the years have gone by, Smash Bros. Has become more popular, more successful, and has brought in a host of great third-party characters to have the chance to weigh their fists in. I mean, to this day, I still think it is so cool that Sonic and Mario now share the same screen, going all out in the same game. During the 2000s, I didn't have a GameCube or a Wii, but when I would play different games, it would be on our PlayStation 2 that I would share with my brothers, and then very rarely on our Xbox 360. Whenever I wanted to play Smash, I had to go to my friend's house where they had a GameCube. I certainly enjoyed Melee. I mostly mained Peach, at no surprise to anyone watching this video, but I would also get my feet wet from time to time with the other different characters when playing Melee all those years ago. Of course, I'm sure that many of you remember that grew up during the 2000s remember all the Flash games that everyone would try to sneak in on the school's computer, whether it was a computer during computer class or a class with computers. Newgrounds was certainly a thing back then. With so many Flash games that were popular back then, they certainly made their mark. I remember a Flash game that would show up on the computers once in a while was a game called Super Smash Flash, a Flash game that was a fan game of the Smash Bros. Series. It certainly wasn't perfect, but thanks to the introduction of that game by my classmates, this was how I played Smash Bros. Back at home, back when I didn't even have a Nintendo console to play Smash Bros. On at all. It shouldn't surprise anyone here that I preferred Melee way more for obvious reasons, but I will say that I enjoyed some of the characters in Super Smash Flash that weren't in Melee, such as Sonic, Naruto, and Inuyasha, while some of the character choices that were put into the roster could have been better. I have no idea why this man is in this game, but it was so cool to see how there was a Flash game that had its own take on Smash Bros. Despite its flaws, but I suppose that I shouldn't pick on it too much. After all, this was a free game that was available on numerous websites that allowed you to play Flash games, and this game was around during a time that Flash games were still pretty simple games to play in general. So overall, it was a decent alternative for those that didn't have Melee accessible for whatever their reason was back then. Now, as time went by, there would be the eventual sequel, Super Smash Flash 2. The game started out with very little content included into it, but I remember there would be small little updates from time to time, whether it was new updates to the physics of the gameplay or a new game mode. The game played and still plays so much better than the original that feels a lot like a proper fan game, with how the controls are a lot more accurate and tight. With the original Super Smash Flash, controlling your character would be very slippery, and even though there was some luck put into it, it did have its flaws, and I'll admit this game sometimes was not the easiest game to control. Now sadly, since Peach wasn't available yet as a playable character when Smash Flash 2 was still in its early days, I would mostly play either Mario or Ichigo. I wouldn't spend very much time playing because there still wasn't a lot of content put into the game yet, so I would get bored pretty quick sadly, but I would admit that over the years I would constantly be checking in to see what was being added and updated into Smash Flash 2. It sure was impressive that a small Flash game back during the era of Flash games during the 2000s would get this sequel where so much was being put into it, and it was again being done for free. And I repeat, for free. The more I've learned about how the team got everything done and how so much time was being dedicated into a project that again was for free, just based on the love and dedication of the Smash Bros. Franchise, my respect for Smash Flash 2 only grew much bigger. However, things weren't always easy for the McCloud gaming team when it came to some of the history of Smash Flash 2. After all, Adobe announced during the life cycle of Smash Flash 2 that both support and service of Adobe Flash would be discontinued. This decision by Adobe would put the nail in the coffin for so many Flash games. Gone was the era of so many Flash games that so many kids grew up with during the 2000s, the outlet that many kids had, whether they were bored at school school or couldn't afford certain games. Many great memories were made with those simplistic games online, but the sad and cold hard truth was the fact that all good things must come to an end, and Adobe Flash was now outdated, and as technology improved, it was out with the old and in with the new. Thankfully for Smash Flash 2, this wouldn't stop the team, and they only pushed on to help deliver an amazing fan experience. Thanks to alternative methods such as Ruffle to help still access Flash projects, the ability to download Smash Flash 2 onto your computer, along with other alternatives, the McCloud team got creative and remained determined to keep the pulse beating for their amazing Smash-inspired fan project. Despite the various changes over the years when it came to Smash Flash 2, I certainly enjoyed it. I like seeing a different take from those in the Smash community, putting characters into a game that would be cool to have. Now, thankfully, characters such as Mega Man and Cloud would eventually make their way into the official Smash franchise before that became a thing. Smash Flash 2 definitely had the community covered until then. The creativity was also superb. The Nintendo 3DS stage stuck out to me because despite the stage's simple design, and when comparing it to some of the different Smash stages from Brawl and after, it honestly feels like a stage that would fit well right into one of those stages. The different stage layouts also felt natural for Smash titles with the stages that weren't from the official releases, such as Bowser's Castle, Lake of Rage, Twilight Town, and Planet Mimic. There was just so much that Super Smash Flash 2 offered that the official Smash releases haven't either showed yet or at all, especially the anime cast such as Luffy and Naruto. I'll say that out of the final Smashes that come from the different anime characters, Goku's is hands down my fave. After all, I would see my brothers watch Dragon Ball from time to time, and even though it wasn't really my thing, but that final Smash in Smash Flash 2 is so cool. Out of the Smash Flash 2 character roster, there are a few characters that I hope that one day make their entries into the official Smash games, such as Rain Man and Bomberman, especially Bomberman. Sadly for some from the Smash community, Smash Flash 2 will probably be the closest that some will ever experience to have Luffy, Naruto, Ichigo, and Goku duke it out in a Smash Brothers setting. After all, Sakurai has stated that he only wants Smash to be a video game themed game, and I can respect that. Smash could easily turn into Mugen depending on who gets into Smash. Not that Mugen's bad or anything, but Smash is in a lane of its own. One thing that I'm both very thankful for and surprised at is the fact that Nintendo hasn't tried to crack down on Smash Flash 2. Nintendo has been notorious for a very long time for going after fan projects, despite a good chunk of them being intended to be free and not monetized to provide a fun experience for Nintendo fans. Now, in my opinion, I can understand where Nintendo is coming from because they do have a right and should protect their works and IPs. On the other hand, however, these are fan projects. They don't have the intention of causing Nintendo to lose sales and to provide an experience out of the love and appreciation towards their IPs. Plus, there are their own separate games. It would be one thing if the fans were charging money to play these games using characters from Nintendo, but that is not the case. While that is an ongoing issue with Nintendo, I truly hope that Smash Flash 2 can remain active given the circumstances. Another thing that surprised me about Smash Flash 2 is that there are actual tournaments for the game. I mean, the same type of tournaments that go hand in hand with an official Smash title. When I first heard about this, I was blown away. I mean, who would have thought that a fan game would be so good that there would be actual tournaments that fans can compete against each in, just like an official Smash Brothers title? I think that is just plain awesome. I think it shows again at how much work the team put into the game and how much the Smash community supports the game. Super Smash Flash has been a great outlet for me over the years as someone who never got to own their own Nintendo console growing up and had to rely on stopping by my friend's house in order to play Melee. I never got to play Brawl or any of the other latest Smash games, but it was Smash Flash 2 and the many people here on YouTube is what kept me happy after all these years. If it wasn't for Smash Flash and Smash Flash 2, I would have had an empty void that wouldn't have been filled. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to when you wanted something growing up but couldn't have it because your parents didn't allow you to, you didn't have enough money, or whatever that reason was. Now, thankfully, I did decide to finally pick up a Wii in 2025 and jumping into the world of game collecting now, since I have say in what I buy for myself now, so I do have some catching up to do that I need to do. I am truly thankful for Smash Flash 2, that it brought me joy when I needed it, and for the wonderful impact that it has left on the community as a whole. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you'll consider watching some of my other videos that I've got on screen, and stick around because I plan to post even more content coming soon. Thank you again, everyone, and I'll see you all next time.